Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here. We're in the town of Elmvale, just 30 minutes north of Barrie, and this incredible community has been without a family doctor since 2022. And that is in spite of all of the efforts that they have put forward since their family doctor in this community passed away years ago. And so despite the advocacy and doing everything that this town possibly could, today, they still don't have a family doctor. And we know that there's 55,000 people in this area that do not have a family doctor, and there's over 2.5 million people in Ontario that don't have a family doctor. I'm a family doctor. I'm Rose Zacharias, and I have lived here for 20 years, working primarily in the emergency department. And so I see people who come into the Emerge that are anxious and don't have access to primary care or community care or mental health and addictions supports in their community, or long-term care or palliative care. And so our emergency wait times are what they are. Too long. I was speaking with a young mom just a couple of days ago who had a 2-year-old with a fever and a rash, and she had gone to the emergency department because that was her only opportunity to see a doctor. So she sat in the Emerge with her 2-year-old for 7 hours, and then she saw a doctor. And that is her best access to care. And that is just so wrong. I've spoken with so many people. Actually, when I introduce myself as the Liberal candidate here in this riding and say that I'm a family doctor, often the first question I get asked is, "You're a family doctor, are you taking patients?" Oh. So that conversation then goes into, I am not taking patients, but I will do what I can, speak with a louder voice that I possibly could ever have imagined, to step forward and go to Queen's Park and bring forward our plight for the lack of family doctors in our province. I have stood for a couple years as the Ontario Medical Association president and spoke to this current government with the 44,000 voices of physicians in Ontario to make recommendations on the doctor shortage, the Emerge wait times, and the lack of community care, long-term care, mental health and addiction supports in our community. Doctors have been speaking up for years about the healthcare crisis that we're in right now. And that wasn't enough because it's not been a priority. That's clear. We're in Elmvale and they know it well, without a family doctor. And so the stories are alive, they speak volumes. And so at this point, I'm going to introduce Tom, who's going to come forward and just share a little bit of his own experience without having a family doctor here in this area. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, good.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Good morning. I'm a longtime resident of Elmvale. I lived here my whole life in the township of Springwater, and my family doctor died 22 years ago, 2022. So I've been without a doctor for years, and so my wife and I we go to the Midland Hospital in the emergency section, and the Midland Hospital I find is fantastic. They're doing their best, but if Bonnie Crombie comes to our little town in this weather today, I think I'm going to listen to hear what she has to say. I think it's just great that she came here to talk to us today, so that's my story.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, so much. And so we are very delighted to have Bonnie Crombie, the next Premier of Ontario, here in Elmvale today. So welcome. Thanks.
Over here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It is wonderful to be here. Thank you all for making the effort to come out and join us in this snowy weather. Thank you to our outstanding candidates who are here with me today, Dr. Rose Zacharias and Ted Chrysler, also from Simcoe Grey, who ventured over to join us. So this is such an important announcement. The reason I'm in Elmvale today at this beautiful community hall is because this town does not have a family doctor and hasn't in quite some many years. But I'm here to tell you that you're not alone. There are over 200 communities across Ontario, which is about half of them, that also don't have a family doctor. The statistics are astounding. 2.5 million people don't have a family doctor, and we know that doctors are retiring, and so that number will increase. And what happens as a result? It puts pressure and a burden on our ERs and our walk-in clinics, but particularly the ERs. As Tom has told you, that he and his wife have no choice but to drive to Midland, to the hospital there, for their urgent or non-urgent care, because residents in Elmvale don't have a family doctor. So, you know, you have a choice in this election. You can vote for a Liberal government, and I pledge to you today that you will have a family doctor in the next 4 years. And that will, of course, eliminate hallway medicine and reduce the wait times in our hospitals. I mean, or you can vote for Doug Ford and the Conservative government and have a fantasy tunnel under the 401. So you can have a family doctor or a fantasy tunnel. You can end hallway healthcare, or you could have a mega spa at Ontario Place. In fact, Doug Ford's plan is to put more money into that foreign-owned spa at Ontario Place than it is to put into healthcare. And I say, Doug, that's shameful. So Doug has broken every promise that he's made. He said he'd end hallway healthcare. He didn't get it done. In fact, things are worse. He said he'd cut your taxes. He didn't get it done, but we will. He said he'd build 1.5 million homes. He didn't get that done either. So Doug, I'm here to say I'm holding you to your record. I'm holding you accountable. Things can be different. You can vote for change, and you can vote for a Liberal government. And you will have a family doctor. We will end hallway healthcare. We will cut your taxes, and we will take the HST off home heating and hydro, and we will build homes that are affordable. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. We'll happily take questions from the floor, then the line. Please state your name and outlet. One question, one follow-up.
Hi, good morning. It's Jessica from the Trillium. To follow up on the healthcare theme, what do you say to Ontarians who are just a bit cynical about this? In fact, they elected, Doug Ford in 2018 to end hallway healthcare, and here they are getting promised it again.
I'm a different kind of leader, Jessica. I'm a different kind of politician. I have a long career in business. And then, of course, I came to politics later in life and later in my career, and I managed the city of Mississauga. I was fiscally responsible, socially progressive, and have not broken promises to the people. So I hope to bring that skill set here with me to the province. I don't know what other governments, previous governments, have promised. I do know what Doug Ford has promised. And he's broken every one of those promises. He's had 7 years to make a difference. He's had 7 years to invest in our healthcare system, and he didn't get it done. But this is my one commitment to people, that I will work tirelessly to ensure that you have a family doctor. I will do other things, yes, lower your taxes, build affordable housing, and make your life more affordable. But my pledge to you is that you will vote Liberal, and you will have a family doctor within 4 years.
Great. On another subject, the premiers were in Washington, D.C. yesterday, and they got a meeting at the White House, but after it ended, one of the people that they met with kind of clapped back at them, saying that, we didn't say you wouldn't be a 51st state. What do you make of that and the premier's outreach in Washington yesterday?
Well, I understand it wasn't very successful. They didn't meet with any high-ranking officials, quite frankly. So I don't think it was very effective. I don't think the advocacy has been very effective. On the other hand, I know that our federal Minister of Finance did have some high-level meetings. But the point of this is we need to act together. The federal government, along with the premiers, must be one united team working together, and that's how we will be effective.
Yeah, I drove 3 hours in the snow to get here, and your team says I can have one more. So
Perfect.
On the debates, what's your game plan for the Northern debate and the broadcast one on Monday?
My message is very simple to the people. I intend to hold Doug Ford accountable for this early and unnecessary election call that is costing us $189 million. And quite frankly, he's not protecting jobs. He's only protecting his own jobs. He's clearly called an election because he's trying to outrun a criminal investigation that's being conducted by the RCMP. There were more allegations of staff misconduct last week, that they were operating perhaps as lobbyists on the side, allegedly, while they were paid by the province of Ontario. So my message will be clear. Doug Ford is not delivered. He has the wrong priorities. His priorities are not our priorities, and I will deliver for the people of Ontario. Vote for Ontario Liberals, and you will have a family doctor within 4 years.
Thank you. Now we're happy to take a few questions on the line. One question, one follow-up. Please state your name and outlet.
Hey, Bonnie, it's Colin DeMello from Global News. I just wanted to dig into what you said about Washington, D.C. So, just getting in through the door of the White House was something that wasn't planned, but obviously something that they were looking for. Do you not see that as success in and of itself? Because this is obviously not a one and done. This is a long-term strategy.
This looks like a photo op opportunity. I can go stand over at the White House and get my picture done as well, Colin. It matters who they met with and what was accomplished. So I'd like to understand what was accomplished. Who were the meetings with? Were they negotiating in good faith? Do we have confirmation that there won't be tariffs? I wonder if any of the premiers had the opportunity to maybe meet Elon Musk and rip up that Starlink agreement that its cost of $100 million to Ontario residents when the technology already exists here in Ontario.
I'm wondering what you would have done differently then, because this is obviously a trip with all of Canada's premiers, the first in history of all of them going down to Washington to kind of have that united front. By all accounts, it seems like Doug Ford gave a speech to a room that was filled with Canadians. They held an event with a lot of Canadians, and then they met with a couple of people at the White House. So what would you have done differently if you were the chair of COF and leading that group of premiers down to Washington?
Well, let's start with not calling an election when we're under siege by the government in the United States, when we know that the president is intent on waging a trade war and imposing punitive tariffs on us. Imagine that the premier picks that moment. Not only does he support this president, and he said so publicly, 100% supports him, the guy wanting to wage a trade war, he picks that moment to call an unnecessary election when he's got a majority government and there's a year and a half left in the mandate. So why isn't he working with the federal government? Why is he now flying back in a private jet to attend a debate tomorrow? Why isn't his focus the people of Ontario and protecting us all of the time? Not just some of the time when it's convenient for him. Colin, the only job he's gone there to protect is his own. Clearly, that's why he's called an early and unnecessary and expensive election in Ontario.
Hi, Bonnie. Lane Harrison, CBC News. I want to stick on the trip to Washington. Before the trip, the Office of the Integrity Commissioner told CBC that it was okay for Ford to travel down there, quote, provided that the activities are not then used for partisan purposes. And this morning we saw a video on Ford's Twitter or X page showing the combination of different videos of him down there speaking, walking around, and it ends with a Protect Ontario logo. I'm wondering what you make of that video in light of what we heard before the trip.
As I've said, Doug Ford plays fast and loose with the rules. He understands that he's breaking the caretaker convention. In fact, he didn't come to Ottawa during the 2022 election during a tornado because he said he couldn't. He couldn't attend because it was during an election. But now he's traveled to Washington. So, he has no concern for taxpayers' dollars or the rules as laid out during election campaigns. He's misusing government resources. I'd like to know who's paying for the private jet to ferry him from Washington to North Bay tomorrow to carry on an election campaign. He's misusing government dollars.
And then on another topic, obviously, we're seeing some pretty heavy snowfall here in southern Ontario today. We're 2 weeks away from the election day. I'm curious, are you concerned at all if we're going to see a lot of snow later this month? Are you worried that might impact voter turnout or the operations of the actual election day?
I have to tell you, I am just hearing, that people are ready for a change. They don't understand why we're in an election. And, we point out the Ford record, which is an abysmal failure, and they're very open to it. I hear a visceral reaction, as I know I hear my candidates here saying the same thing. I've been at the doors. I try to go to the doors in every riding I'm in, plus in my own riding of Mississauga East Cooksville. And boy, oh boy, when they open the door, why are we in an election? And I ask them, do you have a family doctor? Well, gosh, no, I haven't in a long time. Didn't Doug Ford promise you would? This has been a record of abysmal failure. He does not deserve another 4 years. People are open to change, and they know that if they vote for Ontario's Liberals, they will have a family doctor within 4 years.
Hi, I'm going to jump in. Alison Jones with Canadian Press. I wanted to ask another question about the debate that's coming up, the Northern debate. Obviously, you've talked about the particular healthcare needs in the North, but I'm wondering what other issues, other than healthcare, you plan on focusing on in the Northern debate.
Yeah, so obviously mental health care, addiction, homelessness is even more acute in the northern communities than it is in the South. Let's start there. I think we have to look at natural resources and how those sectors have been impacted by a Ford government, what's happened to our pulp and paper industry, our mining industry. I remember the Premier said he'd get on a bulldozer and bulldoze a road to the Ring of Fire 7 years ago. I wonder what the progress on that road is like. Did he bring his little red shovel so we can see? I think there'll be common areas of concern, obviously, on taxes, on healthcare, a variety of issues, but those in particular to the North, especially. That, for instance, I know that there are 1 in 4 Canadians that have to drive more than 50 kilometers to access a family doctor, 150,000 people that have to travel more than 200 kilometers to access a family doctor. So some of those issues, I would think transportation and road networks will also be discussed. So I think we'll run a gamut of issues that will be up for discussion and debate.
On the Ring of Fire, what would you be doing differently there?
Well, first of all, we need to collaborate with our Indigenous communities. It's so important to get their buy-in, and they have to be true partners at the table, and they need to have a stake in the outcomes. And so that means a profit sharing of any revenue that's collected as well.
Thank you. That now concludes our press conference.
Thank you very much for joining us in beautiful Elmvale, yes.